Welcome to People's Republic. My name is Brian Griffith, and this week we are covering the struggle to prevent the erection of a border wall along the so-called border between Texas and Mexico. There is currently a very large movement by border communities, including the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe, to try and prevent the construction of this wall, which would not only have a massively destructive impact on the communities there, but also would have caused massive destruction to the environment in sort of a crucial time of environmental protection. So we're going to spend the first part of the show talking about all of this and more. To talk about all this, we are joined by Juan Mancias, the chairman of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe. Thank you very much, Juan. We're very happy to have you on the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about let's start with the Trump attempting to declare a so-called national emergency to get funding for this border wall. You are at the border. I think all of us kind of know, being in a border state, that there is no national emergency along the border. That if there is a national emergency along the border, the so-called border, it is in fact Trump that is the national emergency. It is in fact to me, the destruction of the environment and the destruction of sovereignty of local communities that is the national emergency. How do you kind of feel, and what is the situation on the ground at the moment around that area?
Well, I mean, just today we had, a raising awareness issue down at the levee by the Butterfly Center to make people understand that we're here and we're concerned about what is happening there. And we realize the fact that the Butterfly Center has been kind of taken off the list to be, sacrificed, and so has La Lomita, and so has, the Vincent State Park, but it doesn't leave any room for the smaller landowners that are sacrificing, a lot of their land, because they may have like anywhere from, 4 or 5 acres to 75 acres, and those are still being affected. And it seems like he's attacking all the people that are in need of, legal assistance in every way to try and stop them from terrorizing their land anymore. And you're right, I do believe that the only crisis we have here is, a big baby wanting to play with some toys and they keep telling them you can't play with that toy. It's only for grown-ups.
Yeah, I think that's real important for people to know that, the real crisis, as we're talking about, is really more caused by Trump than anything. So I know that construction of a section of the border wall that Trump keeps trying to push through, part of this construction has been halted in areas, natural and historic areas in the Rio Grande Valley. Part of that's been blocked by kind of a last-minute provision in the budget deal. The 5 areas that have been kind of mentioned so far: the National Butterfly Center, the historic La Lomita Chapel, Benson Rio Grande Valley State Park, the site of the SpaceX commercial spaceport, and the Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge. Is that still the case, that construction has halted there for now? And again, what does that really mean in terms of long-term protection against this construction of the border wall here, especially for those people in areas who have not been kind of singled out by this?
Well, what it means is that again, we're talking about the smaller landowners that are still being affected and are still being attacked by eminent domain, and their property being seized to accommodate the ego of a person who doesn't even know what it's like to work for their homes. And these people have worked as migrant workers for years, and some of them have been around for 40 years in their homes, and their home now is being attacked. They were migrant workers at one time, and now they don't have any kind of a retirement or any kind of assistance to be able to deal with the attack that they're getting, and that's why it's really it's traumatic to a lot of people and what's being done.
I'd also like to turn to specifically the work of the Carrizo Comecrudo Nation, which I think is so crucial here, and what you've been doing, especially this past year. On January 19th, the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe and volunteers reestablished a permanent autonomous village near the Eli Jackson Cemetery in Pharr, Texas, called Yalui Village, complete with a tents, kitchen, solar-powered energy. So this is a kind of attempt, I think, to claim some sovereignty, to let people know that the border wall is not being built at the border at all, is one of the things that Juan Mancias mentioned. So I'm wondering, how you see this project going forward, and how I know from my understanding you're also working with veterans coming from the Standing Rock, struggle that took place in North Dakota. So I'm wondering how you see that project coming together and what progress has been made on that.
Well, we've been able to be very, very productive in the area of starting to create a village, and we're going by the standing of Create a Village, Save the Earth. A lot of our people from first contact 500 years ago has created, kind of a vacuum of historical information. And a lot of the so-called scholars and historians and archaeologists and anthropologists in the area always seem to stumble over really doing good research about, the origins of the original people of the land, which in this case, were the Ixtocna people who spoke a Ho'oko'am dialect and who are not Guahuiltecos. And even though that they've been thrown into these catch-all terms by a very assumptive and presumptive academia that for a long time hasn't done their research, or even asked us or consulted us, and so you get these kind of mentalities of ongoing racist ideals of that we don't exist, that Native people, there's no Native people in Texas. But in reality, we know that our people are here and have always been here, and that's why we try to continue to raise the awareness of our relatives and our neighbors around here. And it's not, and the thing is, they continue to call us the protesters, and we don't want to compromise our land and compromise our identities, to people that don't understand or haven't even walked with us, but only want to erase us from history. And to me, anybody who really knows what's going on, that's ethnic cleansing. That's the genocide of the Americas. Texas has a commission for genocide and Holocaust, and they only look at seven Holocausts and genocides that have occurred worldwide in the last 200 years, but they never see they don't recognize the American Holocaust. And there is an American Holocaust, and it's that continual appropriation and defacement and belittling of the Native person. And when we talk about being Native, we talk about this group emphasis of being tribal and having a tribal identity, because we were here at the time of first contact, and we were here for a reason. And here in these lands, there used to be an abundance of our medicine that used to go here, and with all the citrus industry that was put in here, destroyed a lot of that medicine because of the pesticides that were put in, and that brought in to promote the oranges and the lemons and all of that. And it killed our medicine. It killed the native plants that were here, and so now we have nothing but invasive plants that are part of the lands here.
One of the things I've tried to make an attempt to kind of read about and also talk about on my show as just how kind of balanced the indigenous cultivation of land was across the Americas for so long, and for such a vast expanse before the arrival of Columbus, before colonization took place. And it really people have this sort of idea that the U.S. was either quote unquote natural or whatnot, but if you look at it, the actual indigenous cultivation of sort of, I don't want to say artificial forest, but sort of human made and human kind of cultivated forests, and the ways that indigenous peoples were able to really balance all of the needs. All of that has been so completely wiped out with kind of the capitalist system under which we currently live, where there's this need for kind of these not need, but there's this preference for these kind of monocrops, which can produce a profit or whatnot, which can be sold, but there's no kind of balance there. And I think we're seeing that we're seeing the sort of environmental destruction that has, and the construction of the border wall is such a perfect place to explore that environmental destruction. It's kind of the perfect case study because one of the places that is being really affected is the 100-acre National Butterfly Center, right, which is set to lose, I think, 70 of those acres out of the 100 are going to be essentially seized and destroyed for this. This is, of course, at a time when we're already losing massive insect populations. There was a study released a while back, and you can read about this in the New York Times article, "The Insect Apocalypse is Here," where, for instance, the monarch butterfly population has decreased up to 90%, and you can see similar decreases in insect populations across many species. There's really this destruction is going to be absolutely horrific at this particular point in time. And I don't know, to me, to kind of tie all this together, I think it's important to understand how the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe and other sort of indigenous peoples have kind of come together, to protect this crucial environmental, this place of kind of environmental preservation at this particular point. I'm wondering how you've been able to kind of work with the National Butterfly Center for this kind of common interest.
Well, that's what we're working at, because I think they have the right perspective of trying to have a corridor, for a wildlife corridor for a lot of the wildlife that's still left, and regardless of the gentrification and urbanization of these lands, and we want to make sure that we're able to give the environment a chance, the natural environment, a chance to come back with the natural resources of native plants, and which will also help maybe the wildlife come back, and to promote the health of the whole fauna in the area. And that's why we're here. We want to do the same thing, especially some of these villages that were coming in. To us, we see it. We don't call them camps, because camps are temporary, but villages are forever, and we want to make sure that we leave that sign of permanence there with the native plants. It's not like we're taking over, because, like I tell everybody, it's not that we own the land that owns us, and eventually, that's what is happening here. People need to understand that everywhere they walk, they're walking on top of our ancestors, and a lot of people are being very disrespectful of that, and they're not aware of the cultures that are here that still exist. Like things with the Dia de los Muertos that occur in much of the population here along the Rio Grande. People need to be aware that there were people that lived on both sides of this river. It wasn't something that, just with a piece of paper took away all the native people in South Texas. With the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty, that now they don't even want to honor the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. So those things are the things that are affecting, our reclaiming of the wildlife, reclaiming of the plants, of the native plants that are here. There's things that are completely out of whack, and it's not about who throws the best protest, but who brings a better awareness with a more decent follow up, and knowing that there's something going to be achieved after it's all said and done. That we're not here just to create more problems, but to develop solutions.
This seems to be also kind of a long-term thing. I think we've at this point seen what I guess I would say from my perspective, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from my perspective, there seems to have been kind of resurgence of indigenous claims to treaties, which are still in effect, not only with regard to Standing Rock, but also here at the border, as well as the Wet'suwet'en in Canada, who are attempting to also set up villages in their kind of traditional homeland to essentially protect against the construction of oil pipelines there, which would destroy so much kind of pristine wilderness in that area, or destroy kind of the especially again targeting the waters, the oil pipelines there in Canada with going through Wet'suwet'en territory. Same thing with Standing Rock. Those oil pipelines, if constructed, are going to have a massive environmental impact, and so there's this from what I've seen kind of resurgence of indigenous people reasserting not only these treaties, but just the kind of historical claims to territory that I think are real important.
Well, with us here, we're dealing with three monstrous LNGs that they're trying to build at the mouth of the Rio Grande as well, down by Port Isabel and South Padre Island. And we're fighting those LNGs because one of the LNGs, one they want to build right on top of one of our sacred sites. So we're actually creating a movement to try to avoid that from happening, and that's where we're at with all of this right now. And so a lot of this is connected, all along the river, because for us, that's why the villages are and I mean, after they burnt our villages, a lot of our people were displaced in many ways. And that's why we're here, trying to make a difference by raising the awareness and educating people, not just by coming in here and aggravating people. But in Texas, we know that for a fact that if it's not coming from, some of the daughters of the Republic of Texas, or some of Bowie's and Crockett's people, it's not education. I mean, they're the ones that are defining what education is, and I'm saying education in Texas has become a sort of activism if you really want to tell the history correctly, and that's what's happening right now, right here, and that's why we're struggling very hard to let people know that we're just educating people. We're trying to tell them that we want to reclaim the land for the goodness of the land and for the goodness of the wildlife that is being threatened, and of course at the same time, so people know that we never left, that we haven't gone anywhere. When they start telling us that we're just fraternal organizations because it accommodates, the powers that may be at the time because they're racist, we need to be able to say, hey, we're more than that. We're a people of this land, and we've always been here. And we're not going anywhere.
What have been sort of the misconceptions beyond the obvious racism that I'm sure you see every day? What are sort of the things that you feel are most kind of in need? What are some of the things that you feel people most need that education about? Obviously, the fact that you kind of have that you've never really left the land, but then also maybe around the, for instance, border or other things, that the so-called border, or other things that you feel people should just generally know more about.
Well, I mean, I think that it's necessary to do some good research on, the people of the land, and to understand it better. That there was one language, and that language belonged to a people that were here, and in that language, our ceremonies remained, our songs remained, and we're still here, and all we're doing is just trying to educate people. We're not trying to take anything away from them because nobody owns everything. Because once you cross over, you can't take it with you. So it's part of knowing that difference and being able to recognize that it's an education point for all of us.
understanding the difference between sort of a ownership by sort of like a more communal ownership and a more understanding of stewardship versus kind of the understanding that of ownership that, you know, so many kind of settler colonial societies have, where it really is about exploitation of the resources. That also seems to be a very important point in all these struggles.
Well, and that's what it is. It's just raising the awareness, and when you do that, you're educating people, and that's what we're all about. We're just trying to educate everyone, and maybe even to the point of saying we need equal representation. People need to speak for those people of the land, and in a form of saying, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere. We may not be federally recognized because a lot of us, like me personally, my opinion is I don't want to recognize everything that this government has done to my people, and I'm concerned about how we're going to do that. So, that's why we try to educate our own people with the language, and try to educate our people with the ceremonies and the way of life that we've always lived. And a lot of it has to do with being friendly. We're not a bad people. We weren't the bad people in the first place. We were the people that were invaded. And so it doesn't make us bad if we're trying to protect that which what we believe in. And that's what we're trying to do now. We're trying to protect that which we believe in, and that's the land. Those are our ancestors, and we want to take care of them. So,
for those people who might be interested in the work that that you and the rest of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe are doing, where can people find more information, and where can people get involved?
You can go to www.carrizocomecridotribaltexas.org or www.carrizocomecrudo.com, or go to our Facebook page. It's also the Carrizo Comecrudo Tribe of Texas. You want more information on that? We have a lot of the books that are the bibliographies that are there that people can look at and find out more of our presence in South Texas, and actually all over Texas. It was just that by the late 1800s, we were kind of just forced into a section around Mission, Texas, and a lot of the tribes were being displaced, were being absorbed by us. So I mean, we're still here, and we got all kinds of information and documents that attest to our presence. But Brian, thank you. I appreciate your help. I mean, I appreciate being on your show.
Thank you very much. It really, it's an honor to have you on, and it's an honor to finally get to speak to you. We have a couple minutes left. If there's anything else you'd like to kind of discuss, or you feel that people should generally sort of know about, because it's hard to tell. Even broadcasting here in Texas, it's far enough from the border that where it's kind of hard to tell, what it is that's going on there. But I know, kind of earlier, the National Butterfly Center had posted that there had been police brought in and bulldozers ready to begin the construction of the walls. So maybe if you have a couple minutes, if you can give us kind of a rundown.
We were. They came in on Monday, and we went out there, and some of our people took pictures of what's going on, and we were not allowed to be on the levee, so we tried to clarify, the trespassing issues, and they're still kind of vague and up in the air, and they're not sure either. I don't even think the Border Patrol or even the International Boundaries of Waters Commission is quite sure of it. But I know that the private landowners have a right to deny access to the sides of the levee, but apparently the levee on top, the surface, is owned by the IBWC, and so they're the ones that are making those accusation of trespassing, and they just let us go see what's going on. Why if they're digging any bones, then we'd be fine. But they're not allowing any of that to happen. So we need to have the monitors there to see, because they said that they would stop any excavation if they found anything. But when they're tearing up and cutting down trees and brush and stuff, I mean, it's not good either, because it's affecting the wildlife. And a lot of those wildlife, like the ocelot that lives in the trees, are being affected. And people need to let their senators, state senators, and U.S. congressmen and U.S. senators know that how these things affect our lifeways here and how we're living in South Texas. A lot of these people, they're working with their hands every day and trying to stay alive. They're migrant workers. They own these places, and they work very hard to maintain what they have. And they're U.S. citizens, and they're being mistreated, like some kind of indentured servants by, some guy in Washington who wants to play with all the toys and doesn't get permission to. So we'd appreciate, even sending letters to the Bureau of Indian Affairs on our behalf so that maybe we can, have a stronger presence here, and maybe our people can get some kind of a land trust where we can take care of our lands and always point out the fact of what's going on here. Those would be helpful,
Yeah, and we'll try and provide links on the show social media about that. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We've been talking with Juan Mancias. He's the chairman of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe. I'd just like to sort of reiterate kind of what's going on is that the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe has been working on sort of establishing along their, sort of territory, which is, near the border, trying to reestablish a series of villages, starting with the Yauli village, to essentially build sort of a network, from my understanding, of points of not just sort of resistance, but also real education about sort of what the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe is all about, and to importantly for kind of this episode, to prevent the massive destruction of land that would accompany the seizure of 70 out of the 100 acres of the National Butterfly Center. So they've been working with kind of all these groups. Thank you very much, Juan, for coming on, and good luck as you continue your struggle down there.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Thank you for having us on.
You are listening to People's Republic with Brian Griffith. People's Republic originates on KOOP 91.7 FM in Austin, and it's also syndicated on WHIV 102.3 FM New Orleans. We are also available as a podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are podded. Stay tuned.